South Africa's housing crisis is once again under the spotlight after government confirmed that more than 200 housing projects across the country had been stalled, abandoned, or blocked. Human Settlements Minister Thembi Simelane revealed that a total of 212 housing projects have been classified as non-functional, exposing the scale of the country's ongoing struggle to deliver housing to thousands of citizens still waiting for homes. The disclosure came in response to parliamentary questions raised by opposition parties, including the MK Party and the Economic Freedom Fighters, forcing the government to provide a detailed account of the situation. What has emerged is a picture of a deeply strained system. These stalled projects are not minor developments. They represent large-scale housing initiatives intended to address South Africa's massive housing backlog, a backlog that continues to grow as urban populations expand and demand increases. In total, the projects are estimated to be worth tens of billions of rand, with government indicating that approximately 37 billion rand has been allocated in efforts to revive and complete them. But despite this funding, progress has been slow, uneven, and in many cases completely halted. The Free State has emerged as the hardest-hit province, accounting for more than 150 stalled projects. Other provinces, including Northwest, Gauteng, and KwaZulu-Natal, are also facing significant delays, although on a smaller scale. In Gauteng, the situation is particularly complex. While the number of stalled projects may appear lower, many of them are large-scale developments affecting thousands of households, meaning the real impact is far greater than the numbers alone suggest. So what is causing these widespread delays? According to the minister, the reasons are both systemic and multifaceted. They include contractor abandonment, where companies fail to complete projects due to poor performance or financial difficulties. There are also administrative delays, often linked to slow approvals, bureaucratic inefficiencies, and coordination failures between different levels of government. In addition, infrastructure challenges such as lack of water, electricity, and sanitation connections have stalled progress in many developments. Legal disputes over land ownership and contracts have further complicated the situation, while in some cases, poor workmanship has forced authorities to halt projects entirely. Taken together, these issues point to a deeper structural problem within South Africa's housing delivery system. Experts argue that the crisis is not simply about funding, but about governance, oversight, and execution. Over the years, housing has been one of the central pillars of post-apartheid development policy, with government committing to providing subsidized homes to low-income households. Millions of houses have been built under these programs, often referred to as IDP housing. However, the persistence of stalled projects highlights the gap between policy ambition and implementation reality. For many South Africans, the consequences are deeply personal. Families remain on waiting lists for years, sometimes decades, while incomplete housing projects stand as visible reminders of broken promises. In some areas, partially built structures have been abandoned, deteriorating over time, and in some cases, becoming sites of crime or illegal occupation. The political implications are equally significant. Housing delivery is one of the central issues in South African politics, directly affecting voter sentiment and public trust. The fact that more than 200 projects are stalled raises serious questions about accountability and performance within the government. At the same time, the government insists that action is being taken. Minister Simelane has outlined a series of interventions aimed at unblocking the projects, including strengthened monitoring, technical support, and closer coordination between national, provincial, and local authorities. Officials say provinces are now required to submit regular progress reports, allowing the national department to intervene earlier and more effectively when problems arise. But the challenge remains immense. Reviving stalled projects is often more complex than starting new ones. In many cases, contracts must be renegotiated, infrastructure rebuilt, and legal disputes resolved before construction can even resume. This process can take years. Meanwhile, the demand for housing continues to grow. South Africa's urban population is expanding rapidly, placing additional pressure on already stretched housing systems. At the same time, economic constraints and budget limitations are making it increasingly difficult for government to keep up with demand. This creates a cycle where delays lead to backlogs and backlogs lead to further delays. Analysts warn that unless systemic reforms are implemented, the problem could worsen. There are growing calls for greater accountability, improved contractor management, and stronger oversight mechanisms to ensure that public funds are used effectively. Some experts have also suggested increased involvement of the private sector to accelerate delivery, although this remains a politically sensitive issue. For now, the government's focus is on recovery. The goal is clear: to unblock stalled projects, complete unfinished homes, and restore confidence in the housing delivery system. But with more than 200 projects still frozen, the road ahead will not be easy. For thousands of South Africans still waiting for a place to call home, the crisis is not just about numbers or policies. It is about dignity, stability, and the promise of a better future. And until these projects are completed, that promise remains unfulfilled.